King's Commandos, this is Horde, and I'm speaking to you on the eve of the new our Roguetech online season, with a new goal in mind. It is to be an open book and completely show all the tactics and strategy I will use for the online multiplayer map. The purpose of that is twofold. The first one, because it's just going to be more fun, I think, for everyone to have all the information out there. The second one is to try to bridge the gap between a casual and more competitive player. By putting all the knowledge out there, I think it will even the playing field a bit. So forgive me for the next minute. I will talk about the basics. I know most of you watching this knows all of this already, but in case a new player wanders in, I want that person to understand a little bit of what I'm talking about. So this is the Roguetech online map, all 3,500 and more planets of it. The purpose is to capture a planet for your faction against other players' faction in a competitive online map. You do that by posting successful mission on the planet you want to control for your faction against the other faction vying for control. Now, the strategy around the online map will be centered around the cooldown timer. Every time you post a successful or unsuccessful mission on a planet, you start a cooldown of 20 minutes. Now, the 20-minute number is the one we have currently in this end of this season. I understand that that number will be lowered for the next season, but for the purpose of this example, we'll just use 20. So let's say I post a mission here. It means that I'm now in a 20-minute cooldown until I can post another result. If I make a second mission within 10 minutes, for example, I will be hit by the sad message of death, cooldown timer in effect, result not posted. So you want to avoid that. And also, you want to be efficient with your time, so you want to post your mission right after that cooldown. So let's say 20 minutes, 5 seconds, so that you can be efficient with your time in competitive and the online map. So the nature of the beast will be working around and with that cooldown. The second point will be to have the best effect possible. You do that by making influence gain in terms of percentage on the planet here. So if I would be posting a mission on this planet, I would want it to be the maximum number, which is currently 30%. That may change as well, but you understand the principle. You want to do maximum influence gain for every mission. So the goal of being as competitive as possible would be to post a mission every 20 minutes, 5 seconds with maximum control gain. That's the nature of the beast. But to do that, we also need to watch our funds, our in-game resource, the C bill. If we run out of funds in a critical or competitive moment, then we're essentially being taken out because we can no longer compete. So before we go over other modifiers, I'm just going to take a look at my career here, because the choices I made early on are relevant now. Again, the basic stuff, the difficulty that you choose will influence how you can gain a percentage influence on the map. The harder you make it, the greater the bonuses. If you make it too easy, you gain decrease in influence. So the choices I made here is to give my Mech warriors experience modifiers all very slow. This is not an easy way to play. It is not recommended for everybody because it takes hundreds of missions for your pilots to be anywhere having relevant skill. So this is a hard way to play. But I do that, I make that choice to be able to keep contract payment generous on all the time. Contract payment generous being an easier mode, it is being offset by that difficult choice. The contract payment generous, well, that's just more in-game money, and it's self-explanatory. That is how I'm able to sustain myself and to be competitive all the time in the in-game mode. So next we're going to take a look at the pilots that I have here, just to show you a bit how this affects my pilots. For example, this is my commander right here. He is sitting at 10, 8, 7, and 9. And all of that is with over 500 mission. So yeah, with over 500 mission, he's not even close to being complete. If we take a look at tactics here, in order to go from 9 to 10, Well, I need 260,000 XP, which is roughly 100 mission at in-game level. This is a bit insane, but this is how I play in order to keep generous payment flowing. So next we're going to take a look a bit about the contracts and the Roguetech install options. Those are also very important for the online map. Alright, so the first Roguetech online multiplier are the contracts themselves. Even for a experienced online player, I highly recommend to double check these values every time you enter a conflict. So I'm going to select my clan, the usual clan Burrock, and I'm going to select the last enemy that I was fighting before the season end, which was Castille. So let's take a quick look. So those are the contract modifier for this clan against this faction. Then they are different for almost everybody. So always double check, because 10 or 15% difference going to make the difference between I've capped this planet or oh no, I have to do one more mission. This information is of course on the website roguewar.org, contract info, right here, contract.
Alright, so the next big options are right here in the Roguetech installation options. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, but let's just quickly go over it. Every little options that you take can add or withdraw online progress percentage. So by default, you want everything that will add online progress percentage. Let's just discuss one of the choices that I make that goes against that. I prefer to use standard map size, even if the increased map size increases online progression by up to 10%. However, the time it takes to move around and chase the last enemy at the ass end of the map, in my opinion, is just not worth it, even for that amount of progression. The other thing that I do is ask for manual deployment or not. I understand that automatic deployment is better because you get minus 2% with this, but I find that for some mission the random deployment are too random, especially for something like a target acquisition. When you spawn at the other ass end of the map on a mountain, it just doesn't work. So for this one I go for standard. For everything else, it's max damage, of course. Company strength here, because everything else just doesn't work. Cap influence to 10. Everything else just doesn't work. And of course, online map. That's the purpose of this, playing the online map. And the last but not least, the nuclear weapon carrier. Yes, those guys. Those guys in this game will F you up. You're gonna get nuked. You're gonna lose mission for virtue of being blown up. It's gonna be frustrating. Keyboard through the window frustrating sometime. But once you get access to them, online nukes are a useful tool to have in your toolbox. And of course, the 10% added online progression is a big deal. Let's dive directly into the heart of the matter now. The difficulty, the contracts, the support lances, and all that comes with it. So in Roguetech, be it online or offline, the difficulty is calculated in these skulls right here. Half a skull means 1 difficulty. So these 5 green skulls means 10. Once you get over that, you get into the red. So this red half means 11, 12, 13, 14, and so forth. By the time you get to difficulty 10, you may start to encounter support lances, which means that there will be more enemy than the mission description alluded to. And this is the heart of the matter when it comes to the online competition, because when you get 8, 10, or even 12 more enemy in a map, it becomes almost impossible to do that mission quickly. Therefore, within the 20-minute window of the cooldown timer of the online map. So how do you beat that? Well, you can and you cannot. Because you see, the difficulty of contract is calculated by the value of the mechs that you drop. It is an average of all the mechs that you drop every mission. And the value of those mechs is determined by the amount of things you put in it, the technology and the value of the items that you put in your mech. So if you take a look at finance right now, and this is a guesstimation, this is not a perfect number. This is acquired from experience and not hard number of under the curtain. The value of a mech can be calculated by the monthly cost it will cost you. So for example, a Victor here at 50,000 would be half a skull worth of lance rating. This number, 50,000 for half a skull, is my guesstimation. It's not perfect, but I'm working with this so far. So if we take my cheapest mech that are worth 44,000, for example, they're worth about half a skull. And if we go to my highest mech over here at 91,000, that is almost worth 2 difficulty or a skull by itself. And the higher the cost of mech you drop, the higher difficulty will scale with you. So if we look at contracts again, from difficulty 12 and up, so 1 red, I find that if you drop the same lance or the same lance rating as the contract itself, so if you drop a lance rating of 12 like this against a lance rating of 12, you will get roughly 50-50% chance of having additional enemies or support lances in your mission. There's a way to avoid that, but the way to avoid that is to underbid the mission, which means sending a lance rating under the value of the difficulty. So for example, if I take my lance here, but I take away my most expensive one, the Dire Star, now I have a lance rating of 10. If I take away this guy, now I'm at 8. So if I were to drop this, 8 against 12, the chances of support lances would be reduced dramatically from roughly 50% to roughly 20%. Again, guesstimation numbers. Mind you, it's still possible to have 1 or 2 support lances, but the chances are low, and if you get them, it will be most likely 1 instead of 2. So underbidding mission is the way to avoid support lances. But there's a caveat to that strategy, because your total rating of difficulty is calculated by the average of the lance that you drop. Therefore, if you keep dropping lower, your average will drop, your difficulty of mission will drop. So you will find yourself in a loop that you will no longer have correct difficulty mission to do impactful percentage on the map. So this strategy is not perfect, but the way to avoid additional enemy is to underbid for at least 3 difficulty under the mission. So how do you balance this against the average going down? Well, there's mission that that have a very low chance of having additional lances, like attack and defend mission. Or sometimes you have missions that you know that will be relatively easy and that you can afford to fight additional lances. Then you go all in to raise your average. Or if you're in a situation right now that you are not under pressure from an active competition in your area, that you're just moving at a more calm pace, then you can afford to go all in and fight additional enemy at your pace. But when you're in active competition and time matters, then you can try underbidding every mission to gain yourself a time advantage. That is the crux of my strategy and how I can afford to do mission under 20 minutes. Is underbid when the time is right and try to raise again your average mission difficulty when you have the time. The next logical question is, how do you balance your lance rating? Well, to answer that, we have to look at the mech bay. First, let's take a look at one of my most expensive mech, this King Crab here, who is worth over 90,000 monthly cost. So a good guesstimation of almost a full 2 difficulty or a full skull by himself. If we take a look at him, the reason for this high cost is mostly this clan double XL, which is worth 12 million by itself. So this is a good example of how much technology you cram into a mech will raise its value, thus making your contract's difficulty, thus raising your average. If we look at the other end of the spectrum, this Victor here was built to be a value of only half a skull or 50,000 a month. How did I do that? Well, mostly by giving it basic technology. For example, this guy instead is running a quick cell engine XL, which is only worth 1.5 million. Now that does not mean this mech is not efficient. This guy with his battle computer, rack and heavy MRM can rack up to a good 600 alpha damage when the rack is up to 6. Now making the cheaper value mech does not mean they're not efficient, but it is a way to balance your lance rating by having mechs of different types of value and using the right one at the right time to have the right value against the right mission. Let's take a look at this Godzilla here as a second example. This Godzilla is usually an expensive mech to run, but I built this one with one of my favorite systems, which is the mechanical jump jets. Now mechanical jump jets, like this one here, which is a 9, it can be up to 10, but this is the one that I have right now. They come with two big caveats. The first one is that you get penalty to damage after you jump. The second one is the way that you jump cannot be changed mid-air. These guys will jump forward and forward only. So if he's facing in the wrong direction right now, he can jump forward and have his back to the enemy, for example, because he cannot maneuver mid-air. But this allows me to use only a simple 225 engine on this guy, making his no XL. So his value is pretty low. It's another example of a 50,000 a month mech that is only worth 1 difficulty, but superb firepower, superb mobility. When you use the mechanical jump jet properly, it's not easy, but it can be done. All the quirks of the Godzilla. This is an excellent 100-tonner, only worth 50,000. So I know this flies into the face of the traditional Roguetech wisdom, which is to cram all the technology possible in every mech to have every bit of advantage over your enemies. It flies in the face of that, yeah. But this is how you can balance your lance rating against the average of your contracts and against what you're trying to do at the moment, basically. Trying to fight your way, avoiding support lances, trying to move forward, having maximum difficulty. You need to have a mech bay that has both options. That is how you can play with this system of underbidding mission. Now let's talk about the other elephant in the room, which is the nuclear weapons carrier, and why did I choose to put that on myself. Now, nuclear weapons will truly ruin your day. You will break missions, you will have to quit them, you'll be entirely destroyed, and all that kind of stuff. But when you get access to them, it is an important tool, and I will put emphasis on that. It is a tool, not a perfect solution to everything. Not at all. Now mechs, this mech for example, is my long-term artillery mech, and he is in possession of that wonderful long-term Davy Crockett. Now this does a 500 damage in an area of effect, as well as 250 heat, and the potential EMP to shut down everything. Now this is $1 million a nuke to fire, and it's not a perfect solution. You cannot afford to fire that all the time. But when you're in trouble, when there's too much enemies, your game crashed and you want to get that one done easy, well, now you have a tool in your toolbox to make problems go away. It's not perfect, but it is useful. It is another tool in your toolbox. That is the way to see those nukes. Let's take a look at the other end of the spectrum. By the way, this Stalker is another good example of a cheap mech. He's only worth 44,000 a month, even less than 50. Now this guy has some arrows, but most importantly, the Thunderbolt 5 nuke.
this is the complete other end of the spectrum. Now this little guy only does 210 in an area of effect, barely more than a standard long tom really. But there's still 105 of heat and a chance to EMP everything. And it is only 325,000 to fire compared to 1 million. Now this nuke will still disable or have a chance to disable a large group of enemy thanks to the heat, the knockback and the EMP. It's not a perfect solution again, but if you're in trouble, if you want to just nullify a lance so you can focus on something else, it's a tool. And at 325,000, well, you can afford to fire this one more often. So this Thunderbolt nukes have slowly became my favorite one, as well as this little Stalker here has been my favorite tool. Just disable something with 2 Inferno arrow and 1 little TB5 nuke, boom, everything is disabled, and I can afford to fire it more often because it's only 325,000. Now I'm gonna share a little inside joke with you. This wonderful Stalker here, for a while I've been using a pilot to pilot it, and he is Jamie's pilot. So next time you're on the online forum and you hear somebody complaining that Pagan Horde must be cheating or something, share a little laugh with me that he was probably just blown up by Jamie's pilot. So let's just talk money a bit. I know I've already pointed out the generous payment, which is a large part of it, but let's just do a quick tip on how to manage it further. If we look at contracts right now, you will see the consequence of underbidding all the time. Right now my difficulty has gone down so low that I went down all the way to have a simple 4 difficulty mission, which just wouldn't do because lower difficulty has lower max reputation, like 12 difficulty, 12 pardon me reputation, when you're trying to hit 30 just won't do. So I will use a priority mission like this one to do 3 things at once if I can. The max pay, 3.2 million, I would use the max pay to get the money. I would use this one, which is relatively easier to raise the average back up by going all in with my most expensive mech and with the highest rating possible, get the average back up. And second, or third, pardon me, would be to top off a planet. A planet that is 0 to 100%, then you can reinforce it, but let's talk about 0 to 100. Say you do 3 missions here at 30% each, which is the max you can hit. So let's just imagine it's 90 and 10 right now. Then you would need one last mission at 10% to top off the planet. So the tip I'm giving you is use the last percentage, use the last 10% of a planet to do a priority mission, because this one pays the best, and you can do a full money and will still get enough reputation to complete the planet. The planet would be then topped off to 100, and then you can use that mission to try and raise your average again back up. And if we look at this one in attack and defend rarely have a additional lances as well. They're built like that because they're some of the hardest mission. So I would do both the priority at maximum money to top off the planet, then I would do this attack and defend as quickly as possible by destroying the base with artillery to and get my average back up. So I would drop here as well with maximum rating, nuke the base, get the average back up, and move on to the next planet. So using money and priority mission wisely while trying to raise your average at best economy of movement on the map. There we go. So in conclusion, use underbidding wisely so that you can afford to have no support lance when it counts. Try to raise your lance rating wisely again, because your lance rate, your difficulty will go down by underbidding. And third one, use nukes smartly. They're costly, but they are a tool that can get you out of a sticky situation. So that's the conclusion of the strategy I intend to use in Season 2.5. An open book, everything is out there. So please do the YouTube things. Like, subscribe, and comments of any other idea or telling me that I'm an idiot. No problem, I'll take it all. And please enjoy the next Roguetech online season. I will be recording interesting battles and the progress through the map, as long as work doesn't swamp me and I can't do it anymore. All right, see you next time.